Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric. I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening as we're taking a look at the recently released English translation of Metal Slader Glory Director's Cut. This was released by FC and Chill, which I assume is Famicom and Chill, and it basically translates the entire game into English. Now this existed first on the Famicom, and this is basically a remake of the game. It is a visual novel, sci-fi based, and has a lot of Policenauts vibes going on as well. And I understand that everyone loves a visual novel, but the people that do absolutely do love them, and because I always want to showcase and spotlight nice translation efforts like this, it's definitely getting a video. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But this game is just straight up so intriguing, and I absolutely love the art style. You're going to see so many different panels, and they're all going to have completely different vibes depending on the areas you're in. And I would say, having played the translation before, as far as the Famicom is concerned, the story is very intriguing, has a lot of twists and turns, and I assure you, if you give it like half an hour, 45 minutes, it is going to hook you in, and you're going to want to know what happens. And now with the Super Famicom version being 100% translated into English, you're going to have a hell of a lot easier time actually playing the game because you're going to be able to understand it, and that's why translations like this are so great. And it really does feel like we're in a golden era when it comes to fun translation projects. We've gotten so many, maybe in like the last 6 months or so, and I absolutely love to see it because, you know, I'm always advocating for the preservation of games, and sometimes that means bringing games to a wider audience so they get more appreciation. Now I am just showing you kind of the introductory sequences of this game through to the first story beat, and I am hiding some of the main story elements because some of them can be technically considered light spoilers, and I do want you to go into this and basically get a fresh playthrough in, because trust me, like I said, the story is 100% going to hook you in. It has that Policenauts vibe, and you know, if I can compare to that game, it's definitely a good thing. And I would say the translation is absolutely amazing. All of the language makes sense. They brought over the entirety of the tone of the story, including some of the more adult themes. It's not too adult, but it definitely has that Japanese visual novel vibe going on, where the main character is a little bit pervy towards all of the people he sees in the game, and that definitely feels a lot like Policenauts and even Snatcher. And I love how the art style comes across on the Super Nintendo. This blue sky, the sea there, her blue hair, the sign in the background, it uses the artwork to such good effect. And then of course at the bottom third of the screen you have all of the different dialogue going on, and we're basically trying to find out where this robot we have comes from and why it told us that Earth was in danger. And of course we do that by talking to basically everyone in the areas, and of course we have to look at somebody's face and body because it is just a Japanese visual novel, and I don't think you're actually able to release a game in the VN format if you don't put these elements in. Just a little bit of a joke, but it seems like every single game has something like this. But I love that the characters call out the main character for being a little bit of an ass when they do it. It's kind of a little bit of a wink and a nod sort of situation. But this translation is just a straight up 10 out of 10. It brings an amazing game to more audiences, and that's why translations are always so important, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that want to play games like this, but of course without that English, unless you learn Japanese, which is definitely probably not an easy feat, you're not going to be able to do that. And before someone leaves the comment down below, we'll just learn Japanese, remember, not everyone has that ability. Some people pick up new languages incredibly quickly, others of us absolutely cannot comprehend trying to transpose words in our brain at the same time. I have tried to learn multiple different languages, and I've never gotten anywhere close to being able to figure any of them out. So we all have different skill sets, and sometimes learning Japanese just to play imported games is not something that most people can do. We finally found Jen here. He's the one that sold us the robot, and there is that problem with the robot where it gave us a warning that the Earth is going to be destroyed. Pretty good inciting incident. Obviously we have the ending of the world looming over our heads, and now we have to figure out why that message was on the mech, who the pilot was, and what we need to do about it next. It really does just basically kick the storyline off. In the first 5 minutes you become intrigued as to what's going on, and then the entire adventure unfolds once you actually go into space. But I'm going to give you a soundtrack sample as well, because this game has some incredibly good music, some great compositions, and it really does work in the visual context of how the game looks. So go ahead and listen for 45 seconds, and I'll come back and show you a lot more of the translation and why you need to play this game. But enjoy! Absolutely amazing soundtrack, and I love it. And later on in the video, I'll let you listen to the main theme of the game, which I think is one of the best pieces of music I've heard on the Super Nintendo for some years now. We've reached the spaceport. Jen gave us a ride. He's the one that sold us the robot, and now we're going to be able to go into space and start unraveling the mystery of who the robot came from and why it left a message that Earth is about ready to be destroyed. And again, it feels so Policenauts like when you're leaving the Earth and going up into space, and anytime we can compare a game to Policenauts, you know it's going to be a fun time. And in the plane, again, the visual novel roots definitely show their elements here, and I appreciate that the translator has brought all of them over, not really trying to sanitize the game in any way, shape, or form. It really isn't that bad whatsoever, but you can see where maybe someone would think to themselves, maybe I shouldn't leave that in, maybe I should change the lines. So it is good that this is a very faithful translation. Obviously changed the language over into more common spoken English, so it makes sense, but you'll see here you can pick touch on the plane, and it does have a little bit of a joke, and that's going to be a thread throughout the entire game. But as far as the translation is concerned, I'm glad that all of that has been kept intact and moved over to conversational English, because again, literal translations usually don't make much sense. You have to take the actual literal translation and then bring it over into that conversational English so it makes more sense to the actual audience reading it. But we're taking off for space in what basically looks like something from an Afterburner game from Sega, and will soon be at the space station where the story really does kick off. And even though this might not technically be the best looking graphics on the Super Nintendo, I love all of the artwork here. I love how that plane flies by, how the afterburners hit, and it basically looks like it's a camera trying to track a rocket from Earth, which is always a difficult thing to do, I'm sure. And you just get this scene of it leaving terra firma and going into space. And of course, once you get to the space station, the art style completely changes. And that's one of the things I really love about Metal Slader. All of the different areas have a very distinct visual style to them. Some of them are going to be darker and a little bit more atmospheric, almost cyberpunk style. Others are going to be bright and cheery, so you kind of get a really nice mix in art style, and everything does look good, even if the actual area that you're seeing the space station in is kind of small and you've got that dithered background to the left and to the right. And don't forget, Jen did tell us what gate we parked at, so you have to actually enter that in. So when you get information in the game, you're going to want to write it down, because that's going to be important later, and I didn't show you what gate it is because I want you to discover that on your own. But as we get into the hangar here, we're going to find that we have that mech under this tarp, and we're looking for a serial number or some other bit of identifying information so we can actually find out who the pilot of the mech was. And even though I bet you could probably guess who it might be, again, I'm not giving you any spoilers in this video whatsoever, because getting this information and kind of unraveling the story really is why this game is so fun. It isn't the longest game either. You can definitely get through it pretty quickly, and because it isn't a lot of actual action, you can kind of just chill out on the couch and play this as a relaxing way to have some fun with games, but maybe not play something that requires too much attention. But I'll give you that second soundtrack sample now. This is basically the main theme from the credits, and again, I absolutely love the music. It sounds spectacular, and I'll be right back and tell you where you can play this translation. But enjoy. It's just a fun piece of music. It's a little bit wistful, a little bit mysterious, and really does make you get the vibe of the game. Some areas are going to have no music in the game whatsoever, others are going to have like an environmental soundscape behind them, but it 100% works in the context of the story that Metal Slader is telling you. And again, having that story in English just makes the world of difference, because now you can 100% understand it, enjoy it, and play it, and maybe find one of your new favorite hidden gems, because this game obviously is well known in Japan, but games like this don't really get much attention in North America, because we really didn't have many English visual novels back in the day. So it's one of those things, people seem to discover the genre all the time. And you'll see we at least got some letters off of the control panel of the mech, so now we have a little bit of information to actually go on, and we have to pop back to the actual space station and talk to somebody who can tell us who that pilot was, and that's going to be one of the biggest story beats in the game, so I'm definitely going to keep it from you, but definitely play it and you'll find out. And we did leave one of our companions on the spaceship because she wanted to look at the stars cars a little bit more, and you had the choice to either leave her behind or take her with you. So I'm sure you can understand what's going to happen when we actually go back to that spaceship. And you do have multiple choices in this game, so you can kind of articulate how the story works depending on what you think might be right. And you'll see here, we can't find one of our companions. It doesn't matter how hard we search, she just seems to be missing completely. Should we have left her behind? Should we have taken her with us? That's a decision you need to make. Every single decision can change the story, so you kind of get a very unique playthrough every single time you play the game. And again, FC and Chill did an absolutely spectacular job in the translation effort. It makes contextual sense, it makes sense from an English language perspective. All of that literal translation has been made conversational, and that's all you need. So definitely check out Metal Slader Glory Director's Cut on the Super Nintendo. I'll leave a link to the patch below. It takes about 30 seconds to patch it, and then you'll be playing the game, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. But I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.